Namaste. I want to bring in awareness, a subject which is not very much talked about in detail regarding dealing with our mind, which we call ego or which we call our functioning mind and psychological mind. Usually, people who enter the spiritual processes, they start to think mind as something to be discarded. Along with arises the questions that how to live my life. If I become spiritual, how I will manage my life. And because they think discarding the mind means discarding all your functioning. But what is being asked in discarding the mind is discarding the psychological mind, which is made of fantasies and fears and greeds of future and past. And they assume that it's very easy. You can just discard the mind. No, it's not that easy. It needs a very strong will, a developed integrated personality to surrender. And it needs a deep devotion to surrender to your will. If you decide something, it needs surrender that no matter what happens, I will do it. So, will and surrender come together. So, I'm going to explain in detail because I think this subject is most important subject for any kind of human being to able to understand how to deal with the chaos. What is the criterion to use the mind? Because usually when people's minds are in chaos, they simply wants to discard it, but they do not understand that mind is not a chaos. This chaos is created by the careless use of the mind, which is using the mind in indulgence, in fantasies, and avoiding the thoughts which are practical and functional. So, all thoughts are not thoughts, they are practical, functional sparks which are saying that you need to do something about your life. But then comes the psychological mind which says, oh, I don't know if I can manage, oh, I don't have will, oh, this and that, what if I fail, etc., etc. And that is the garbage you need to get rid of. Because functional mind does not need psychological mind. Psychological mind only interrupts the functional mind. So, whenever you are facing this issue, this training is very important. In this writing will help that whatsoever is going on into your mind, you have to discriminate. You have to write down which are the psychological functional thoughts. They will be filled with fear, doubt, some fantasy, some indulgence that let me watch the movie, let me scroll, let me just relax for some time, etc., etc. And on the what you're trying to do is you're avoiding a functional thought. The problem with avoiding functional thought is because functional thought is asking you to participate, take an action, and face your life, and that will involve discomfort and facing circumstances, making things happen. So, on this level, these thoughts will never haunt you. If you act on them, these thoughts are about responding to your life and its needs. It does not mean that these are the interferences to your enlightenment and no mind and surrender. Thought is a creation tool of the cosmos. When you are walking, that is a body thought. When you are eating, that's a body thought. When you are looking, that is a visual thought. Everything on deeper level is a movement, is a thought. Thought is not only thing which happens into your head, which is made of words and images. Thought is also something when you feel something. When you look at a tree, that whole image which is happening in your mind is a thought. But that thought is more real than the tree which you imagine in your head. So you need to understand that distinction between which thought is a functional thought and which thought is a psychological thought. Now here the role of will and surrender will come in. You will need will. You will need strong will. You have to make a decision that I will not stop my functioning because of my psychological thoughts. So you separate out the psychological thought, and if you need to do something into your life, and once you start to do, then you will notice your mind is relaxing, because whatever anxieties we are feeling are our postponed actions which was needed by our life to respond. You need to pay the bill, you have to talk to somebody which is important, and you postpone. And those energies, you cover them up by avoiding those issues and living in indulgence or scrolling or something. I'm not saying don't scroll. Scroll to increase your knowledge. Don't eat junk food of knowledge, but use scrolling to decorate your mind. Find out interesting things, learn interesting things which are useful for your functional mind. So here you will need a will. When mind says, oh, I just want to relax, you need to break that pattern. So here surrender will not do that, okay, I will scroll, I let go and I flow with life. No, that will destroy you. That's how these misunderstandings of surrendering, letting go has destroyed Eastern culture so much. They used surrender, let go as an escape from life, whereas surrender and let go was a deep participation. If life is demanding for you to work, you surrender to that need. That's what surrender means. Let go to that need means let go of your resistance to that need where you need to make an action, make some money, and survive in your life. Here I am not talking about fantasy desires. I want to be a millionaire and show off people. Here I am talking about in today, what is it, the first brick you need to lay for your functional life? And for that, use the thought. And thought is then a great creative apparatus. And that apparatus, you decorate with new information and make your functional mind very skilled, very sharp. And that is our basic and deepest need of our mind, which we do not understand. People are suffering from mental noise, mental confusion. They are not understanding the need of your mind is to respond. And if it doesn't respond, that energy goes into mind formations, mind disturbances, confusions, and doubts. And you wonder what is the solution. Even meditation can't solve that, because once you will do meditation and it will settle your psychological mind, you will come across a bigger problem standing. All your unattended issues, they will haunt you. So it's important to understand this, that write down which are your practical functional thoughts which are asking you to do something about your life, and which are the fears and doubts just randomly roaming around into your head and stopping your functioning. And after you have decided what you need to do, then surrender to that need, what needs to be done. That means apply yourself. Surrender does not mean sitting still and letting life go by. Surrender means jumping into the river and flowing with it. If some action needs to be done, you do it. That is surrender. When action needs to be done and you do not do it, that is going against the flow of life. So be very clear, because in last 30-40 years, first 20 years of my life were wasted in misunderstanding this whole thing which I am sharing with you. And I earned it after a long experience of going through failures and pains. And many people are wasting their lives, because then spirituality becomes an escape to avoid the real challenges, where you will be forced to face yourself, your incapacities. So what a normal growing mind will do when it is faced with incapacities. It tries to escape and hide behind bragging about itself, and it starts to believe a psychological world. Their personality is not based on their functional mind and its capacities, but a healthy mind will look at its incapabilities and will scientifically look at how I can train myself to become good at this. And you cannot say that how I will train, because you are wasting your training, your ability of your mind to learn and train itself by scrolling and filling it with unnecessary information and training yourself into garbage. Again, I am not talking against scrolling. Use that beautiful, wonderful informational tool. If I had it 40 years ago, I would be somebody else, because then you have so many things to learn and develop. And the more your mind is engaged with functional and developing a skill, developing an art, gathering information which can help, your mind starts to feel very integrated. You do not have then time left for unnecessary fears, mind fucks, and greeds, because you realize slowly that anything which happens in life is because of functional mind. If you want to eat, you need to cook. It doesn't mean you go on fasting, that cooking is an illusion. You need to cook. And similarly, it's very important that you understand about mind, that this mind is not a problem. You're using the way you use this mind is the problem. And when functional mind has expressed itself, it is a very practical mind. It becomes quiet when there is nothing to do. And that's where the meditation happens. But your psychological mind is opposite. When there is nothing to do, it starts to do unnecessary things in imagination, thinking of fears and insecurities. And please remember, each thought is a power which could create for you a new life. But when you waste it into thinking unnecessary fears, ego fears, I am feeling this, I am feeling that. I hear hundreds of people talking about their issues. I see mostly these are the games their psychological mind is playing, and they ask me to get validated as a psychological mind. And I do not support that, and they get upset with me. The point is that they are not a healthy mind. It is psychology. This psychology does not live in a reality, where functional mind lives in a reality and responds to what needs to be done. And that does not mean you will be less romantic, because our romance and our sensitivity to life is again very much mental phenomenon. We talk about love, what about emotions, it's all just mental imageries. Whereas a functional mind actually connects with life through feeling, because functional mind ability to function in life, you have to use feeling. You have to use your all senses to engage yourself into an action that makes you grounded and integrated. So this particular thing about psychological mind and functional mind, you should be able to discriminate every day that which thoughts are just there because you're feeling helpless and hopeless. And if you look at the undercurrent, there is a doable practical actions you need to do now today about your life, and you are not doing them and playing a victim to some emotional misuse or some ideas you have borrowed from others, that how you are not so good or you are a failure. All that put aside, you do not need to be a success to lift a cup. You do not need to be a success to wash your clothes. And similarly, if you start to look at all your great fantasy actions, they are simple actions you need to do step by step, brick by brick, whole palace will be ready. But what we do, we start to have great maps and architectural plan for our future, but we are not putting the bricks on. So spending more time into every day using the functional mind and doing the actions, first you need to get grounded into this life, what you got. And same is true about the emotional situations, toxic situations you are living. Instead of divulging and getting lost into injustice and pains you are getting, you have to, if you have a functional mind, it makes very clear decisions that okay, I do not want to be in this situation. So you start to take steps for that. And if you need to be free, then you find how you can be free, how you can develop a talent to be free of it. Or if you need to get out from a situation. So you see, this functional mind is for the survival of the unit in which it is, how it can survive and live its life fully. Only then you can form a society which can live fully and share fully. Means when you have full, only then you can share. But when you see your life is getting wasted because of other psychological mind and they provoke your psychological mind, and in that your functional mind is not able to act, there you got a real issue that you have to deal with it. I am not saying try to get rid of that psychological. I am saying focus your energy on functional mind more and more and more. That means doable actions which are needed for your life. If you feel that your body is out of shape and you know as a functional mind you need to exercise, but you have been postponing it, immediately jump. Thought comes, start to exercise. Do it for 10-20 minutes. You have broken a pattern. And like that, and always remember, ego likes to, psychological ego likes you to come there and feed your energy to its imageries. Whereas functional mind likes you to come here and start to act what you are. Whatever challenges, functional challenges which are facing you in your life, this is who you are. It's not some philosophical statement, be who you are, be where you are, be what you are. Means what it means, be who you are. It is not some noun or a feeling. It's a clarity. It's a clarity that be the life which you got right now and deal it with a functional mind. Discriminate out the psychological mind. The more you point out that this is psychological mind, it is useless thought about my fears and insecurities, and get into functional action. You can even chant or you can do some exercise in which you are bringing, you're claiming back your energy from the from the psychological mind and engaging into the functional mind. And that is the beginning of real life. That is the beginning of spirituality. That is true spirituality, means responding to this which is in front of you. And for that, your philosophies, which are part of your psychological mind, will not help. And similarly, you can discriminate which philosophies to follow. Philosophies just fills the balloon of your psychological mind, discard them. I am Brahma, I am soul, I am not the body. Bullshit. Go for functional philosophies where they say be aware of your actions. No right guru talks to you about these great declarations of scriptures. Those were made by very, very refined functional minds. Psychological mind does not say this, I am Brahma, I am not the body. A very refined mind can say that. When he says, I am not the body as a functionality, he is saying, I am the whole cosmos. When somebody is saying, I am the soul, it means I am this whole cosmos. Every action, every movement is part of me. There is nothing for me to hide and avoid. But we use the same philosophies to hide and avoid your so-called inferiority complex. But what is inferiority complex? Again, made of psychological mind. You believe into some negative inputs about yourself. But you need to establish your identity from the functioning, from the action, from the real events of your life. That is the state of integrated ego. Right now, what we call integrated ego in people is just arrogant ego who is filled with themselves. A healthy ego is integrated ego, which is made of functional mind, which knows its identity from the actions it does. It knows itself as representing the movement and creative action force of life. It does not know itself as my name is so and so, I am from so and so higher or lower family. These are all psychological minds. Psychological mind relies on past and projects imaginations in future, and functional mind looks at the present and use the past information and makes it functional in the present, and out of that it is creating future consequences which are scientific, which are not based on what if it doesn't happen. It's like saying that if I put a pot of milk on fire, what if it doesn't boil? Psychological mind is that stupid. If you act, it has a result. But psychological mind says, let's not put the fire on or put milk on the fire. Who knows? It may boil, it may not boil, so I will be a failure. No, your ego does not do things. It just accommodates the nature and the need of situations to bring them together. Rest is done by nature. You just put the seed into the earth and water. Don't think that you are growing the plant. This is one of the deepest stupidities as a doer we gather in our lives, that I have to make this thing happen. No, you, like a gardener, like a tool of life, bring together the elemental energies. What is need to be done, and what you do that, and you then relax and wait. So it's like fire action means will action. You gather everything. For a garden, leaves and dig the earth, there you need a fire action. Then you water, now it's a water action. Now you relax, do nothing and wait. Let nature do its work. So functional mind is a tool, is a alchemy, how to activate the alchemy of life which creates results into your life. And in that sense, from the psychological mind aspect, we are all crippled. We have misused the energy of the functional mind into indulging into psychological mind's games and needs. And when you really get established into functional mind, you become very clear which company you want, which company you do not want, which kind of relation you need. That is not a decision of a psychological mind. That is a decision of a expanding functional life, which knows which are the interferences and which are the supports for the growth. Because if two functional mind really create a third reality, and one functional mind, one psychological mind, you have a vampiring happening, and two psychological mind, a relation will stagnate. And lastly, the juice of life which mind wants to experience is, it can experience not through drugs, not through entertainment, it experiences them through the functional mind. Because in functional mind, your whole being along with your mind finds its identity as an expanding universe where you accomplish a task. Maybe on the mind level you think I have just done this, but on the cosmic level you have participated with life and moved it further, not sat down and thought about your past and mourned it or celebrated it, but didn't do anything in the now. Life is only interested into present action. Even if you're thinking of some future to make, it needs present action for your future to happen. So functional mind will make a plan for the future, but it will use only 5% of energy to make a plan, like everything in balance, what needs to be done. Then it will focus 95% of energy into functional mind, action for that plan. So, being spiritual does not mean you don't plan. You plan, but psychologically, you don't interrupt your energies or growth of your life by overindulging into fantasies about future or withdrawing from taking decisions into your life because you're too scared, because you have inferiority complex, you feel you have no energy. You have no energy because you are wasting your energy into vampire actions which consumes your vitality. But any functional action in which you are adding something to your life, you will get tired, but you will not be energetically exhausted. You'll be full of a silence and enthusiasm for your life. So understand the difference between lacking energy and feeling tired. Feeling tired is a sweet feeling. You have accomplished, you have created something, you have worked on something, now you are resting. And this rest is a natural silence which happens. And in that silence, nature then gives you further clues how to further expand your action for your life. So listen to this again and again and take notes about this, because for youngsters it's very important, and many spiritual seekers it's very important that spirituality should not make you useless in material life. It should make you super efficient, because now you know where is the weakness of humanity, and that is your psychological mind. It has happened that all the destruction which is happening because of the science is because somebody's functional mind invented something, but it got into the hands of power oriented psychological minds. They use that as weapons as to control other people. So similarly, your functional mind should be in service of life, not in service of your ego. That's it. Harium. Namaste.